So, over on my right, I have Dr. Benedicta Yayra Fosu-Mensah, who is a lecturer of the University of Ghana and a member of the NDC National Communication Team. Good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm a senior research fellow.
You're a senior research fellow. Fantastic. Welcome to Breakfast Daily.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here.
Yeah, good too.
How's Legon doing?
Legon is doing great.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, it's good to have you here.
Yeah.
And I have on my left, Fati Abubakar, who is a Deputy Director of Communications at the Office of the President. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And how are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah? All right, fantastic. Well, let's begin today's conversation. We're going to start our conversation, the fight against corruption. So we've been hearing different comments being made left, right, and center, and I'm going to start our conversation with our guest here, Fati. But we've been hearing a lot of commentary from the government side as to the president saying that he's reduced we've had a reduction in the sourcing and so on to 2.75 billion Ghana cedis worth. And let me just read it quickly. There's some stories here, and then we'll lay the context, and then for our viewers, and then we'll go ahead and do that. All right. So John Boydu first of all says that Nanado has tackled corruption better. All right, and then I'm going to read a quote from him. He says. Okay, let me just read a bit of the story first. He said, the General Secretary of the NPP, John Boydu, has hit back at the National Democratic Congress, insisting that the Akufo-Addo administration has tackled corruption better. This is also in response to Aseidu Nketia's comments that he made earlier, which I will also delve into a little bit. In a City News interview, Mr. Boydu held that unlike former President John Mahama, President Akufo-Addo is fighting corruption head-on. He also said that the NDC's attempt to attack the president and the NPP with corruption will fail. He said, and I quote, the president is pointing out the efforts that he is making, even when it is allegations that sometimes are based on nothing. He even goes to the extent of referring those people to institutions that are responsible for dealing with those matters. He says, only a strong and unambiguous signal to President Akufo-Addo and his government can reverse the current drift of the country into an abyss of corruption and total collapse. This is what Aseidu Nketia was saying. Only a strong and unambiguous signal to the president, Akufo-Addo, and his government can reverse the current drift of the country into an abyss of corruption and total collapse. We have the power to cause change in the history of our country by refusing to surrender the public purse to a marauding gang of looters who present the facade of incorruptibility. All right. Now, Aseidu Nketia said earlier on that Nana Akufo-Addo has lowered the bar, okay, for a corruption fight. And I'm going to quote. He says his failure, that's Nana Akufo-Addo's failure, to admit the existence of corruption in his government is a very clear indication that he does not even recognize the problem and cannot be counted upon to address it. Because if you don't know the problem, how do you solve it? So those of you who are counting on him and hoping that one day he will get up and fight corruption, your hopes will be dashed. His claim that an uncountable number of corruption deals and practices have come to light, and since he assumed office, is the handiwork of the opposition, is another example, okay, of a leader who is totally out of sync with the aspirations of the Kenyan people. What do you say?
First of all, let me say good morning to Ghanaians, especially City TV viewers, and those who are watching us on Facebook Live as well. It's funny. I happened to watch the entire press conference on Facebook Live yesterday. And I listened to the General Secretary, I listened to the intro and every aspect of it. And at every point in time, the NDC, through their Chief Executive Officer, as they call him, the General Secretary, looks for every opportunity to tarnish the image of the president by trying to smear corruption on him, smear corruption allegations on him, even though there is no single evidence against the president being directly or indirectly involved in any corruption act. And let's start with this. Based on the NDC's press conference, I want to talk about the NDC kind of politics. There was this issue about Muntaka scandal. At a point in time in 2011, there was no scandal as big or as popular as the Muntaka scandal. The NDC failed to prosecute. We are not even talking about investigation. The then president even came out and said, I know what, is this the first time a minister of state has sent the girlfriend abroad on holidays? This is a matter on record. Let's look at the smartest issue. Refund the money and go away. Was that any less of a scandal? Let's look at a sitting president. The first time in our history as a country, a sitting president was alleged to have taken a fraud bribe from a Burkinabe contractor. Did he step aside? Was there anything like, let us ask the president to step aside whilst we conduct any investigation? Interestingly, in 2015, Mr. Wadako, who was the then MD of BOST, accused a board chairperson, Alhaji Hudu Yayra, of causing financial loss and extorting an amount of $74 million from BOST. This is a matter in the public domain because these are reported cases that you can find on credible media outlets online. The NDC even failed to conduct a simple investigation in any shape or form.
So, Fati,
now,
not to break your train of thought, but it was based on all the scandals you are mentioning, okay, that the NPP campaigned, right, to be brought into office. However, based on what you're saying, okay, not one person so far have we found that the fight against corruption, the NDC seems to have, grounds to make the argument that they are making, because we are not getting the prosecutions that would suggest that you are actually winning the fight against corruption.
First of all, that is why I had to start my intro by reminding Ghanaians of what the state of anti-corruption fight and the NDC looked like, because it is important we know where we are coming from, so that at least we will be guided as to the direction that we are going moving forward. And I'm saying the business as usual under the NDC administration is not what President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has repeated. Far from it. Every single allegation of corruption against a government official under this NPP administration has been investigated. Every single one of them. Not by the president, not investigations conducted at the presidency. I am talking about
and what has
credible
been the outcome of,
because continuous. We
investigations?
keep reminding people that the wheels of justice may turn slowly, but they grind fine. The justice system that we have in this country as a democracy is such that at every point in time you need to respect due process. So as we speak, there are some issues.
It's a rather convenient position to take.
Not at all. Not at all. The most important thing for a sitting president to do is that when any corruption allegation is brought to your attention, you refer it to the appropriate state institutions to conduct investigations into those matters. Beyond that, what the president is supposed to do is to retool, to invest in these state agencies so that they will be on their feet. They will have capacity to address these complex issues related to corruption and related matters. And that is exactly what President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has done over the past 2.5 years. And Each time the NDC get the opportunity, all they want to say is that the president has cleared this person and that person. That is what warranted the president's comments of that he made at the bar conference, that there is no single time that an issue has been brought to his attention that the issue was just swept under the carpet. It was either referred to Parliament for a bipartisan parliamentary committee to look into the matter, or it was referred to the CID, or it was referred to SHRAJ, which is a constitutional body, and in some instances to the special prosecutor. When these institutions come up with a report that clears somebody, it is not to say that the President of the Republic on his own has cleared anybody. He does not have the authority to do so.
He doesn't?
Because we have separation of powers. Yes.
But
the judiciary is as independent as we can have it.
It's very, very powerful. Fact,
and the judiciary is very, very powerful.
Overly powerful.
And the constitutional bodies are very, very powerful. SHRAJ is autonomous. The president does not control SHRAJ. The president did not appoint the commissioner of SHRAJ. In fact, the current commissioner was appointed by former President Mahama. And when you allege an issue, it is not enough that a mere allegation should condemn somebody. That as we sit here, if I accuse you of an offense, that is it. Because I came out to talk about it first, you are condemned. We need to respond in a way that the person's human rights is also taken into consideration, in a way that is within the context of rule of law. And that is exactly what this president has done. Beyond that, we are saying, let's take this issue about Abubakar and the JIDA team, for instance. This is an issue that came up somewhere 2010, 2011. We had to run over 5 or 6 years before there was a judgment and sentencing to that effect. And even when they were found guilty and sentenced accordingly, a leading member of the NDC, Honorable Nilante Vanderpoy, member of parliament for Dodo and a former minister of state, he came out to say that the NDC cannot accept the ruling of the court. He wants to assure every party faithful to calm down, and that when they get the opportunity to come back to power, they will make sure these individuals who were found guilty by a competent court of jurisdiction will be allowed to walk scot-free.
Right. I'll come back to you again. Benedicta, what is your response to the defense that she has so spiritedly put up?
Yeah, good morning to you and our cherished viewers once again. Honestly, I want to say that this issue of corruption, we should not look at it from partisan point of view.
Okay.
The complaints and allegations are not being done by NDC alone. For me, I think we need to put structures in place as a first step to prevent or stop people from indulging in that act. Now, my sister just, gave a number of instances. He said NDC has been labeling the city government as being corrupt. But I don't want us to look at it from that point of view as NDC. They made those allegations. We had instances of A+ coming out to raise alarm of some officials indulging in corrupt activity. An investigation was made to start, and we came out again with allegations of the CID boss, in a compromising situation, trying to cover up on these allegations. We've had instances where there was this gentleman, Calvin Taylor, being an MPP member, raising issues of corruption in this government. This is not an NDC member, but an MPP member. We've had instances where the founding member of the MPP, Dr. Nyaho Tabaklu, have complained about allegations of corruption in the MPP government. So for me, I would say we should look at this thing from a Ghanaian point of view and not partisan point of view. There are instances where, for example, this Amari deal was brought out there's been a number of discussion on it. Currently, we have the PDS deal, where investigations were made, and again, there has been some clauses that shows that there's some amount of corruption going on there. There are a lot of instances, the PPA deal, where contracts are being sold. These are clear examples that people have somehow compromised their stand or their position that we can call corruption. But you see, what is happening is that my sister just, stated that when these allegations are made, there are no evidence, they ask for investigation to start, and most often nothing comes out. And that has been the trend. Are we saying that there are always smoke without fire? Therefore, over, I think, 100 plus allegations of corruption, all investigated, and none is proven to be truly corruption. The allegation being true. Each time they are cleared. Each time they are cleared. And most often what we also see is that when an allegation is being made and an investigation is conducted, we see a kind of chess playing where you just move the person from one institution to another, or the person being suspended. Suspension for me is not enough if we want to tackle corruption, if we want to stop corruption. To the extent that the ambassador of Dutch said that instead of we talking about Ghana beyond aid, we should be talking about Ghana beyond corruption. These are observations even by foreigners. So for me, we should not look at it as if the opposition party is kind of attacking the certain government of being corrupt. But we should look at it as a holistic way of saving the public purse for Ghanaians, and not issue of, this is this party and that party, that you are trying to pin down one party to project yourself. No. But before NDC was voted into power, we were all promised that the public purse will be protected.
Yeah, but Nanado says that in spite of the recent happenings at the PPA surrounding the suspension of the CEO, 2.75 billion Ghana cedis has been saved, for the public exchequer from between 2017 January to July 2019. Okay, and it says that what they basically done is to reduce the number of sole-sourced procurement, items. So the president is making a point in the defense of
my brother.
Fight.
These can just be figures. Have they published these so-called
the list of
contracts?
of the? Have
they published it? Have they published the amount of money that each of these contracts have saved as a result of it? The issue is that we can all come up with figures that, we've saved this amount of, but are there concrete evidence to show that truly the opposition party, when they were in power, this is the contract they gave out? And this is the amount of money that was spent for each of these contracts. And during the NPP government regime, this is the number of contracts that has been given out. This is the amount. Honestly, the issue of coming up with figures, anybody can come up with figures, just to kind of as a makeup. But we need evidence. We always say that we should be evidence-based whenever we are making allegations or in order to prosecute somebody. So for me, it's not enough for the president to just say that we've saved this amount of millions, but to publish it and then compare with the opposition party what they did when they were in government and what they are doing as of now. Other than that, it's still just...
Okay, so Fati, he says, publish a list. She's also saying this off the back of what Aseidu Nketia said. He says, publish a list of projects. The claim that you're making, the savings you claim to have made. So is there such a list?
Of course there is, I believe.
So when are we going to see it?
This afternoon at 1 p.m., the General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, Mr. John Boadu will hold a press conference at the party headquarters. And I believe he will specifically respond to some of the issues that have been raised in the NDC.
So hopefully we're going to see a list. We're going to hear the list.
I don't even need, as I sit on top of my head, I can even give you updates on some of the contracts.
No,
in 2016, there was a contract awarded by Cocoa Board to supply 250,000 bags of Aseidu fertilizer at $11.5 million US. And a single bag cost $46 US at that time.
Okay.
Last year, that same contract at Cocoa Board was reviewed by the PPA, and we were able to reduce the cost for the same number of fertilizers to $7.87 million, buying from the same contracting source at $31.50 per bag. And what we are saying is that let's not even look at the business person, because a businessman is in business to make profits. But the NDC administration leading this government was a very poor negotiator. They failed to negotiate in the best interest of the country, to the extent that there are so many contracts like the one I've just expressed, which if they were properly negotiated, we would have saved the country billions of cedis. And aside that, they should check with the Auditor General, they should check with the PPA. Luckily enough, the RTI bill has been passed. I believe training is going on for heads of institutions, chief directors and all that, to see how best they will be able to give out some of this information. So then these will get the opportunity to cross-check. But in 2016 alone, restricted application at the PPA for restricted tendering constituted 99%, had 99% approval.
When was this again?
2016.
Okay.
And for sole sourcing and the NDC in 2016, application for sole sourcing received 96% approval at the PPA. Compare those same figures in what happened in 2017. In 2017, for restricted tendering, only 47% of such applications from the MMDCs and ministries received approval. And for sole sourcing, only 56% received approval.
Right.
And although...
Hold your thought there, right? Don't lose your train of thought. We'll come back after a short break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. And you've been sending us messages, so I want to read out a few of them, and then I'll go back to Fati to finish her thoughts. After listening to the NDC press conference yesterday afternoon, I felt very sad. If indeed the NDC take Ghanaians serious with the overhyped, bogus press conference by the NDC, all they sought to do was the usual propaganda, deceit, and personal attacks. No wonder Ghanaians have sworn to keep them in opposition. This is from Se Ewuku from Esuboy. Hashtag Breakfast Daily. We are fatigued of the corruption equalization. We want to see a fight against corruption. Let's stop the propaganda. Ronaldo should vindicate himself of how he's not corruptible. This is from Francis from Hohoi. Tell the MPP rep that she isn't on top of issues. We voted for change, and yet they are blaming the NDC for their woes. The scandals under this inept government is mind-blowing. From Sami in Achimota. From Farouk in Tema. Corruption is a registered trademark of NDC. They cannot share this disgraceful tag with anyone. General Mosquito, the $10 per block that you sold to Bui Power as a board member was it made from the blood of Samson? Okay. Hypocrisy and double standards indeed. Okay. And the last one here is coming from Efo Kokuvi from Aflao. He says, General Mosquito, Ghanaians do not have short memories. We still remember your expensive blocks that you sold to Bui Dam. Is that not conflict of interest? Nanado is not corrupt. Can ex-President Mahama say same for himself. All right, Fati, you were giving your submission.
Yes, so as I said earlier, I gave an example of just a single contract that we saved over $3.62 million on. Let's push that aside. Who is the messenger of NDC when it comes to this anti-corruption fight? Mr. Johnson, Aseidu Nketia. The only opportunity he got to serve in the previous administration as board chair of Bui Power Authority, he entered into block making business just to sell blocks to the Bui Dam project at exorbitant prices. People had cause to complain, but as it stands now, there is no record anywhere of any investigation that was conducted into the matter in relation to corruption or conflict of interest. Today, he comes to us purporting to be the cleanest messenger who is so appalled by any corrupt acts, alleged corrupt acts, that he is coming to tell Ghanaians that we should give him the opportunity to lead the country, for them to lead the country and fight corruption and all that. Let's not waste the ears of Ghanaians. Now, let me rebut to just two statements that my sister made. It is true, and I agree with her, that when it comes to corruption, we cannot reduce it to politics. It is a matter that is in the interest of all Ghanaians, and we need to treat it as such. But if we listen to the NDC, talking about Nyaho Tamaklo, even A+, who as leading members of the NPP, you can just deduce from their intent that it's all about gimmicks, and they are not taking this.
Why do you say so?
Because in the scheme of political affairs, we have not had cause to even say that even the founding member of the NDC, former President Jerry John Rawlings, on whose ideals the NDC was established, on whose principles the constitution of the NDC came into being, was frustrated by their own administration to the extent that he even called the appointees of the previous government, some of them greedy bastards. Okay, that is the extent of his frustration.
Fati, but does that negate the veracity of claims made by people such as Nyaho Tamaklo?
It doesn't, but in the scheme of political affairs,
so why don't you
if that is the tangent that we are supposed to go, because, for instance, Mr. Martin Amidu was a former deputy minister, former minister of state, former attorney general. He had cause to inform Ghanaians that at some point in time, even the president of the republic, Professor John Evans Atta-Mills, had cause to call for an investigation to be conducted on the then Vice President Mahama on alleged corruption related to the purchase of an aircraft in Brazil. And I'm saying that we haven't gone on that tangent, because that is the NDC kind of politics. I'm saying this so that they will stop talking about Nyaho Tamaklo says this and that, because in the scheme of politics in this country, but for the decision of Ghanaians to vote for President Kufuor in the year 2000, if had the NDC won the year 2000 election, Mr. Martin Amidu would have been the vice president of this country with the NDC government. So we should not reduce this issue to Mr. Nyaho Tamaklo says and A+ says and who says and who whatnot. Let me give you one last example. In 2017, Honorable Mahama Ayalaga alleged that Mr. Boache Jakun, who was appearing before Parliament for his confirmation, gave bribe to people. NDC has it as one of their list of corrupt acts that have occurred under this administration. What they have failed to or even recognize is the fact that there was a bipartisan parliamentary committee that looked into the matter and unanimously came out that the allegation was false and had cause to even call Mr. Mahama Ayaga to come before the floor of Parliament on live TV to apologize. We cannot leave the fight against corruption to Facebook allegations and concoctions, so that when I go on Facebook, all I need to do is to look for one appointee that I don't like or anything and say this person is corrupt. And then this will be chasing after my Facebook post and just placed it as one of their corruption allegations against this government. Let's take the fight seriously for once. As I said, the president's statement is conclusive. What he has done is to refer every single allegation of corruption to the appropriate authorities. And on top of that, he has made huge investment into anti-corruption fight by retooling and also financing heavily these state institutions that are in charge of the corruption fight.
All right, thank you. Final rebuttal. She says that we can expect commentary on the list.
Yeah, my brother, I think it's so sad. It's so sad, the tangent in which we are taking this corruption discussion. I earlier on said that we should take partisan out of this. Let's talk as Ghanaians.
Yes.
The fact that there were allegations of corruption in the era of NDC does not justify why the same thing is repeated, and probably we think that, oh, in our era is just allegations, they are not true compared to NDC. So it's like you are justifying the corruption allegation in NPP era. And I think as Ghanaians, we should not go in that tangent, because Ghanaians voted for NPP because the president, then flag bearer, promised us that the public purse will be protected. And probably Ghanaians at that time felt, okay, if we had an alternative that was coming to protect our public purse, then let's give him the benefit of the doubt. And they voted the NPP into power. So for you to be here this morning to say that, oh, what's the name? General Mosquito sold blocks at a higher person, this person did that, and so they are corrupt compared to us. I don't think that's the target for us to go. Rather, what I think as Ghanaians, and for that matter, our president and the necessary appointees need to do, is to put measures in place. Not to just keep clearing people. In fact, as of now, I think all the allegations that have come up.
And they say they're not clearing anybody. They are actually investigating all.
But there are instances where even the bodies that are investigating the so-called allegation find themselves in a compromising situation. So how so? I mean, we were all here in this country when these things came up. The IGP boss was one person who was accused of that situation. We've had instances where people, there were evidence, for example,
I'm not following you. Accused of what specifically?
Where there were, I mean, recordings that, oh, we yes, you know, we say president, no, administration, because it's like the person wants to insist, no, this is what happened, this is what happened, and it's like, look, don't say that, because if you are saying that,
the IGP was a CID boss.
Sorry, the CID
boss,
not okay. Thanks for the question. I mean the CID boss. Yeah, so I'm saying that if this person is the one doing the investigation, and now we found a compromising situation, how sure are we Ghanaians that the reports that we are receiving from those people are really as it is? So again, there is some kind of mistrust if really the institutions that are doing this investigation are found in a compromising situation. We've had instances where there were video evidence that people found themselves in a compromising situation. What happened? Those people were either suspended or they were just changed from one ministry to another. For me, I don't think we should go...
Some would also argue that under NDC, it's exactly the same.
But that is not... My point is, that is not a justification to say that because it happened in this era, and so you are justified to do that. Okay. You said we are going to protect our purse.
The public purse, yeah. And
I think we need to show enough evidence that we are fighting corruption. Okay. Instead of just saying investigate or we suspend this person and then the next time the person is found in it's like just a teacher who for some reason is alleged or is alleged has raped a student. and you say, okay, let's transfer that teacher. So the students in that particular school are saved from this act or this crime, and another student in a different school should suffer the same. I don't think it should. We need to go that
All right.
route.
We want to go on to the next topic. We want to talk about the electoral reforms that the EC is suggesting. There's been a suggestion by Fosu-Mensah, the chairperson of the EC, that we should consider reducing the number of hours at the polling stations. So we're going to be doing, instead of 7 to 5, we're going to be doing 7 to 4 a.m. Personally, I think that we should even come as low as 2 p.m., 7 to 2, and then we are done with it. And the rest of the afternoon can be used for counting the votes. But I'm going to start with you. What are your thoughts on this suggestion by the EC?
Well, I would say it's a good move. However, I'm not too sure how extensive consultation or where they've made a lot of consultation before coming up with this suggestion. So for me, going forward, I will suggest that there's a need for them to do a lot of consultation.
With who?
With the various stakeholders. There are a lot of stakeholders when it comes to elections in this country, the various political parties, the various institutions that have a stake in election.
Frank Leodro of CDD says he thinks it's a brilliant idea.
And for me, it's not the issue of reducing the time, but to put in mechanisms in place to speed up the process. There have been instances where even the voting is extended up to 5 o'clock. There are some people that are not able to vote.
Yeah, but
and there are instances where even after 5, we have a long queue.
Yeah, but it's my thing with that, and that's the reason why I was suggesting that even in my opinion, I think that ending the voting by 2 o'clock, which by the way is what happens in Nigeria, and there are far more than us. Okay, there are many more people in Nigeria than we are, but they end their election by 2 p.m. right? Because the thing is that the habits of Ghanaians in arriving through the gate last minute is you can't change that. Okay, so understand the way our people function and say, look, if it means that the 1,000 people who are supposed to be at this polling station, 800 of them will arrive at 2. We still have at least maybe an hour, 2 hours. We'll finish everybody will finish voting, and we will still have daylight to keep counting.
My brother, for me, I will say that it may be a disastrous for us or a disaster if we want to say that we want to reduce the number of hours. Yes, because the issue is not just people coming to vote. We've had instances where people go there and the EC officials are not ready. Either the machines are not enough to allow a lot of people or a number of people to go through the process at a time. We've had instances where there's a delay in the arrival of the materials. We've had instances where probably the machines are not functioning and they've requested for another machine. So for me,
but the last election had relatively much fewer of such, fewer incidents like that.
Yes, but there is always a but. This may be a recipe for disaster if systems are not put in place. I'm saying so because we've had a number of these instances, as I earlier on indicated. Now, if that happened, and we say, okay, let's end the vote by 4 o'clock, and there are a lot of people in a queue who haven't voted, or there are people who haven't voted even as at 4 o'clock, what happened? We are going to throw the country into chaos. So for me, I think we need to put the structures in place.
The EC says that if we say voting ends at 4, anybody in the queue, once you're in the queue already by 4 o'clock, you will have your chance to vote.
Would they be able to manage the queue?
Well, we've done it at 5 up to 5 o'clock. I don't see what the issue is here.
For me, I will still say that there's a need for us to engage the stakeholders. Let's all agree. Let it not be something that it should be pushed in the throat or pushed down for people to accept.
Okay.
If Ghanaians accept that, okay, let's end it by 4 o'clock, and there's even a problem, then we all take that responsibility. But if somebody just say it's 4 o'clock and you are forced to accept it, then some people will be held responsible, and that is where there will be a disaster if it does not go well.
Fati, what are your thoughts on this?
I read the statement on one of the online portals yesterday. Personally, I feel it's a very brilliant idea. We cannot lose sight of the fact that sometimes we vote late into the night, or counting even goes very late into the night.
Yeah.
And looking at the number of people we deploy to go out there to risk their lives, sometimes at very dangerous or when the violent-prone areas, to risk their lives as electoral officials. It is only fair that there is a measure that has their security and their safety in mind at all times. So as a mother, as a human being, my first thought on it was that this is brilliant, because in terms of security and safety of these officials who are sent on the field, I think this is the right thing to do. But that also brings another concern up as to the number of hours. Would it be enough for some of the populated polling stations that have about 900 people on the roll or what have you? So looking at some of those numbers, we can only recommend that those populous polling stations, the Electoral Commission would look at splitting them, reducing the number of people who vote at a polling station, so that the number of hours, whether 7 or 8 hours, will be just enough for all the people who find their names on the register to get the opportunity to vote. But if you heard the statement right, this was just a form of a statement which came in a form of declaration of intention, and subsequently they seek to engage stakeholders at IPAC, at all levels, CSOs, even the media. So the engagement
will take place?
Of course, because this is just an introductory statement declaring the intention of the EC to look in that direction for the purpose of taking care of potential security challenges that arise in the night. Sometimes when it comes to even counting late night is risky. Someone will say this is a small ballot, someone is saying it's not. And look at some of our election centers. They are not usually enclosed areas where electricity is provided, apart from the collation centers. These polling stations are on school parks, under trees, areas that don't have direct electricity access. So most of the times, that alone poses a very huge risk to voters, to security personnel, and even to electoral officials who go there. If there is any way that the EC can arrive at a program that will ensure everybody will get the opportunity to vote, and they would even reduce the hours even before 4 p.m. I think I wouldn't mind. That would be a very good step. Right. So long as no one is disenfranchised and they're able to cater for everybody, I believe it's a good step. Okay.
So the last topic that we have for today, we're talking about labor unrest, and there's a story in the graphic. The Finance Ministry to release 50 million Ghana cedis for teachers transfer grant. Let me quickly read a little bit of that, and then we can talk about it. The Finance Ministry has authorized the Controller and Accountant General to release 49.99 million Ghana cedis to pay outstanding transfer grants and other allowances to qualified staff of the GES. The payment covers accumulated arrears from 2017 to 2019. An interministerial memo signed by Deputy Minister of Finance, Ms. Abna Osayasari, and copied to the officials, including the Ministers of Finance and Education, as well as their deputies and chief directors, as well as the Director General of the GES, a copy of which the Daily Graphic has cited, gave the breakdown of the payments as 38.95 million Ghana cedis, whilst 11.05 million Ghana cedis will be paid as other allowances. On an annual basis, the memo stated 18.33 million Ghana cedis was in respect for 2017, and with 2018 being 16.23 million Ghana cedis, whilst in 2019 the amount is 15.44 million Ghana cedis as accumulated payment. At a press conference yesterday in Accra, the General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, Mr. David Ofori Echampong, said all the affected teachers will be paid at the end of September. Responding to questions on threats by 6 regional chairmen of the association to go on strike if the arrears were not cleared, he said that the threat was uncalled for since all the issues that were raised were being addressed. Let me come to you on this. Your thoughts on this, the seeming agitation and unrest in the sector, even though they say there's money being made available.
Actually, it has. The 50 million has already been paid. I listened to a representative of.
It's been paid or it's been approved?
It's been approved.
Okay.
You know, it has to go through Bank of Ghana, okay. Yes. But at least so long as it has been approved and it has issued accordingly, okay. Then they can be rest assured that it's hitting.
Why are they still agitating though?
The issue is that they raise several issues, issues about promotion and all that, and even mentioned that today, this morning, they will be meeting with the Labour Commission to sort out the outstanding issues. So as it stands now, in respect of arrears, all sorts of allowances, those ones have been cleared. But if they have outstanding issues, I believe they should be treated as important and get the opportunity to vent and also speak out so that all those issues will be addressed. We don't take the work of teachers for granted as a government and as a country, because their work is so relevant to everybody, to myself, continuously at all levels. We keep learning to get better. So how can we even forget that we need to address their welfare issues? So we take this issue seriously. That is how come, as soon as this unrest started, government has responded swiftly by ensuring that all the backlog allowances have been paid. We can only encourage them to act in good faith as they go to meet the Labour Commission today, so that after the meeting they can quickly get back to work and give our next generation the education that they deserve. And I would have to commend the Finance Ministry and the government for responding and as swift as possible to ensure that the allowances are approved.
Benedicta, Fati says that the teachers should exercise good faith in government's promise to deal with their situation. Your final thoughts as we...
Yes, I must say that there's always this proverb that the reward of teachers is in heaven. But I think it's high time these thoughts are changed. The question is, how many teachers are even going to heaven to receive the reward? So I must say that, well, I'm happy to hear about the approval of the money, but it's unfortunate that every time we have to always wait for some strike or threat of strike to take place before what is due people are giving to them. Now, these teachers, I think Ghanaians, we will all bear in mind the fact that the pressure on teachers is increasing almost every day, in the sense that now the number of students they are dealing with has increased over the years. The workload on them have increased over the years. Yet what is due them, it's always delayed. Last week I was telling someone that if you owe me 10 cedis, let's say today, and you are supposed to give it to me tomorrow, you refuse to do that and decide to give it to me in 3 months' time. Now, to you, you have paid my money, that's 10 cedis, but that 10 cedis have devalued. What 10 cedis could buy today, that 10 cedis can no more buy it. So that sometimes is the situation teachers find themselves. There are teachers that are in arrears 4 months, 4 years, and sometimes they have to always be a threat of strike or they are on strike.
I have a counter argument to that.
Why should it be so?
I have a counter
There are
argument
people,
so
for example,
that,
there are some institutions, they are due for, let's say, clothing allowance. that is always given to them. But when it comes to teachers, it always accumulates. Some people are promoted, they just know they've received their promotion, but that have not reflected on the payroll. There's always a lot of delay in promotion. We've had instances, for example, somebody tender in application for promotion, and it takes about 2-3 years before this go through. Now, according to the policy, the person, that promotion is supposed to take effect from the date of application, but the increment in salary is just 3 months. So what good have you done to the person for that delay? And a lot of teachers have suffered this fate. So for me, I will say that, well, it's a good move, but going forward, we should not always wait for institutions to either agitate or go on strike before what is due is given them. So I think teachers deserve better, and the government needs to see to it to make sure that they are made comfortable. All right, teachers deserve better.
Let me say thank you very much to my guests who have been here on the show with me. Dr. Benedicta Yayra Fosu-Mensah, who spoke last, is a lecturer at University of Ghana. So she's a research fellow. Senior research fellow at the University of Ghana, and a member of the NDC National Communication Team. And also Fati Abubakar is a Deputy Director of Communications at the Office of the President. Thank you very much for watching. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the next segment.
Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed this video.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, The City Tube,
for exclusive Breakfast Daily content and other City TV programs.
Like, comment, and share with your friends.